Well, Brick Lane is constantly changing because of the different people that go there. But I first arrived in Brick Lane 30 years ago and was impressed with it immediately because it was quite derelict, but at the same time a very busy place with lots of people on Brick Lane itself. And what I liked about it is that it was a meeting place because the people who either worked in the sweatshops on Brick Lane or in the restaurants would sort of hang about and just talk on the street. And the street was a kind of living room for them because most of the people who were on the street were from the surrounding estates, and a lot of people were living in overcrowded conditions. So for them, the street was an extension of their living room, and that's how I've always felt about Brick Lane as a photographer. And so you get all these people hanging about who are just fascinating to photograph. But now it's a place where people go. It's like a playground for people who want to get pissed, or who, just want to go to a bar or a gallery. It's a completely different place now from the way it used to be 30 years ago. So it used to be called Spitalfields, but now it's called Spitalfields and Banglatown because of the number of Bangladeshi people who live here. So it does have a kind of Bangladeshi inheritance to it. I live in a tower block just off Brick Lane, and I've watched the skyline change over the years, and it looks as if there are icebergs closing in onto the area because all of these huge buildings are moving closer and closer, and as a result of that, land prices and property prices have increased, so people have moved out. So the affluent people are moving in and the poorer people are moving out. But it's always been the poorer communities that have intrigued me as a photographer, the way people have to struggle in their everyday lives. That for me is something that should be documented and needs to be documented and needs to be celebrated. There's so many different cultural groups of people who live in this area that I find that fascinating and attractive. As a photographer, I like to see different groups getting on with each other, and I like to observe them. And a place like Brick Lane is like a theatre. There's always something new occurring, and it's fascinating to see all these different people coming and going on Brick Lane. I just find it's just amazing. I take photographs of people and they're generally unaware of the fact that I'm taking the photograph. That enables me to capture the moment and for the photograph to be objective, if you like, although it's come through my subjective eye. So it's important to celebrate the lives of ordinary people rather than to demean them, and so I don't go out of my way to take photographs that are going to compromise individuals in any way. And the reason why I do what I do is to celebrate the lives of ordinary people, and I think this is very important in a time when celebrity is so worshipped and the cult of the celebrity seems to permeate our society. So I like to have an antithesis to that, which is photographing ordinary people in their everyday lives, on the street, etc., and celebrating their lives and finding colour and meaning in what they are doing.
So some people have called my style minimalism. The photographic or the visual equivalent to that, quite a lot, is the editing of Phil's films, or the films that use Phil's photography. You will get the same image but a slightly different version, and then a slightly different version, and that really triggered me. The first time I saw 3 films by them. I just couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. I loved them so much. They spoke so directly to me. It wasn't so much what they were, although it was just like the imagery was fantastic. It was East End fantastic. It was the editing of very good photographs that made me very much want to write music. They and I were in a music festival, an art festival that was set up by a mutual friend. And I performed, and then I went and sat in the audience, and then I saw these films. I couldn't believe these films. And I thought I could really write specifically to these. And when I got the film, it was like I was meant to write that music to that film. And it just came. What's important is that these are people going about their ordinary business, and they're people that media will just walk past. They're not artificial. These are just people queuing up, waiting for things, upset, families hanging out together, kids. And the fact that he's able to capture completely ordinary people going about their ordinary business without them knowing, really. He's not stalking. There's no feeling of stalking. They're not aware of the camera. So we're really privileged to get a very intimate view of people who are not at all self-conscious, because they don't really know that they're being photographed. And even if they knew, maybe they do know. I don't know what his method is. You don't get the feeling at all they're being exploited by the photographer. What Phil is doing, and what he has been doing, is capturing the death of one era and the birth of another. Well, East End 1, East End 2, East End 3, there are 3 black and white films, with a tiny bit of colour sometimes, moving photography, colour, but they're basically black and white films, and they're all about equal length. And as a composer, I didn't want to write extremely similar music for all 3 films for obvious reasons. I don't want people to get bored, So the soundtrack to East End 1 is extremely slow and extremely sparse. It goes like this.
I'm in my 35th year here. I think I first met Phil when he was a councillor. And let me tell you, a brilliant councillor. I would have liked him as Prime Minister, actually. And I saw him. We used to go to different sort of parties that the Indian restaurants had, because it was a whole different community around here years ago. It was fantastic. Everyone knew everyone in Brick Lane. You couldn't walk down Brick Lane without knowing someone. It was fabulous, the local police, and we were a little community, and I used to say to Dan, oh, there's Phil Maxwell. This is before I ever spoke to him. There's Phil Maxwell over there. Oh, I really want to talk to him, you know. But, you know, Phil's my best friend, so is Haswell. I hope, you know. I love him dearly. How could I leave? You know, I miss people like Phil and Haswan. You know, I never want to leave. But I still love it here, and very happy here. You know, as you can do, have you ever seen Phil's brilliant films? You know, like all Brick Lane's changed so much. I don't find that for the best, you know. But my pub has never changed. I've always had a variety of people, which is what a pub should be. You know, you can have artists, you can have fashion people, you can have cleaners, you can have bus conductors. I have all sorts of people in my pub, and that's how I've always loved it, you know. And everyone gets on, you know, all walks of life. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you work at, does it? It was almost like a playground. You asked Phil, it was a little bit different. You know, you could go in the police station, have a cup of tea, and it was just incredible, and you felt very safe around here, because you'd have this policeman called Rocky, they used to call him, and he'd be amazing for the community, amazing. Every time I go to his film, I cry, because I remember when Spitalfields was like that, and I want it back like that, you know. Damn all the posh buildings, and amazing it was, amazing. You know, when I grew up on Deborah's. How cool is that? No, Phil was everything to the East End, everything, and has, you know. Look what they've done, you know, you see people and they're like mesmerised when they go and see his work. Look at his books, how he's got it all. Don't you think that's brilliant? And no one could have done it better than Phil. Just amazing what he's done, and the books, and well, you've seen his films, so you know what I'm talking about.
Well, at the library here, Bishopsgate Library, we've got Phil's collection of his archive of photographs, but we'll be keeping all of the images in the archive here forever as a sort of a document of Phil's work. And we have other collections as well, and the emphasis really is on capturing the everyday life of London and the East End particularly. Everyday people, what they do. So many places around the country that capture the famous, the infamous, you know, the important people. But we're sort of really committed to try and make sure that the record of our lives is kept as well through photography, but also through documents and other resources as well, so people in 200 years know how we lived, not just the famous people. Probably the most wonderful thing about Phil's photography, I mean, I'm an archivist by trade. My real concern is about historical evidence in photographs, and what will these photographs tell us about life, you know, 200 years from now, 100 years from now, 50 years from now. And, you know, Phil's pictures are really, really sublime in that respect, because they do capture the moment that he's taken the picture in the East End. And they are political. They're a very political set of photographs in that they feel they're set out to record the lives and experiences of ordinary people who live in this area. You know, he could quite easily, through his work, have gone off and made lots of money doing this or doing that because he's that quality of brilliant photographer. But he's chosen as his main job is to record the lives of the people he sees around him. It's a really, really important body of work and intensely political in a way that I love, because it is, you know, sort of democratising the experience of people in this area and giving them a voice and empowering them, and their memory is there in the archive as well as the famous people. I think what is most important about Phil's images are they sort of document an area over time, and they do capture a sense of, you know, how the population of this area has changed, also how it interrelates with each other as well. So you can see in a lot of Phil's earlier work, the street almost becomes like a theatre for him to record. You know, people are engaging on the street, people are talking on the street, you get the characters that maybe are not here now. So I think what's important about Phil's is that they show a change in history of an area. I mean, there is, you know, you can tell through the work there's a passion that Phil has for the area. You know, he loves the area, he's engrossed in the area. He's lived here for so many years now, and you can tell through the images that there's like, you know, a real affection for the area and the peoples he's seeing around him. But Phil's pictures are always celebratory of people. They're not derogatory about people. You know, he captures people in a wonderful way, and I think, you know, I don't think there's any problems with that at all. So he is Brick Lane because he loves it, he's lived there, he's lived it, he knows the characters, he's seen the characters, he's met them, he's drunk with them, you know. But he's so much more than that, Phil, I think. And what really gets me is not only the recording he's done of this area, but the passion that he has for what he's doing, the passion he has for this collecting of everybody's story in his photography and his filmmaking now. And, you know, that's why I think he's an extraordinarily important photographer.